Hey everyone, snow is here, so it's pretty much time for my Blaster of the Year video. I'm Dave, welcome to Tag. For this video, I am gonna concentrate on what we have on store shelf. Next year, it's gonna be upgraded to maybe what we have on store shelf and what is easily orderable online. But for this year, store shelf only. I'm gonna start down the drain with my least favorite blaster maker, and we're gonna make our way up to my favorite maker and the Blaster of the Year. Let's start. First and foremost on my list is going to be Nerf. Yes, it is a bit hard to imagine the mothership going all the way down, but that is pretty much it. For a couple of reasons. First, I would say their loadout line. While it was a very good idea to go with their modulus and strike attachment to go with their new dart, I think that execution was pretty poor, maybe driven by the needs of copying the others, but this was sad. I mean, they had a couple okay blaster in that line, like the Galactic Commander or that Arctic Sniper, but for the rest it was basically 5 or 6 different agility reskin, all and every single one with a different color pattern. Therefore, you will never have any attachment that fit really well with other blasters. Instead of that, Nerf should have just went with let's say their Galactic Commander, the Sniper, and their Agility reskin, and go with 3 different patterns for 3 blasters. This way, you would have been able to choose the right pattern for you, and would have attachment that fit those blasters all across the board, fitting with the color pattern. But no, they just wanted a big cash grab, and that ended up with what we see now, which is basically a regulator, a Fortnite BSRL, and an 8-shot blaster, generic blaster using end-strike dart. And the second reason here for them being down the drain this year is because pretty much every other blaster in their lineup is just a ward, with a different shape, a different color, maybe semi-form factor with faux brick barrel and ridiculously small stock on it, coming with a bunch of dart, but still they charge $10, $15, $20, $25 for those $5 Canadian ward. I got them at dollar store. So no, Nerf is not really cutting it this year. Then second to last, just barely, would be Busby. Why Busby? Because they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Just the fact that they still use a regular dart is a bonus point for them, because they hadn't really innovated. They changed the look of their blaster with clear plastic polycarb looking tube, but they are still the single shot or 4-shot blaster you would find normally under Busby's brand, just with a new look. Another reason why I'm leaving Busby just above Nerf. As much as we can complain about Busby's grip that are made for being from another world, I think they have accepted it and assumed it as a signature, because their new blaster are not that different. They have those awkward endo that we are almost wanting from Busby at that point. So yeah, third place for Busby. They haven't released anything super interesting, super innovative, but they are keeping their place, and at least we know they are reskinning blaster, because they don't have that much to offer in their arsenal. They would need to go a little more R&D on that subject. This is a move acceptable for Busby, but completely not acceptable for Nerf. Let's talk about Dart Zone a bit. Dart Zone had a rather slow start this year, because they announced a bunch of blasters, but they were basically all recolored, all new variant of an older blaster that they had already released, including the Dart Zone MK2. Maybe it's because they were lacking a bit of idea and were waiting for their new product to be ready. A new product that they announced a little time after that. They announced the Brute Pro and the Boxer Pro, but just before that they brought some new blaster to Canada, which were basically last year lineup from Walmart, apart from the Nexus X, which is basically the only really interesting blaster they could have bought to Walmart here. But still, they brought some. the ANX, the Cricket, and I think it was a Maxim Pro that they brought here, plus the darts. That was something very, very nice for Dart Zone to bring dart at a decent price here. But the issue that there was with the Brute Pro being an awesome blaster when bought here in Canada and kind of a terrible one when bought to the USA. Plus, not the Boxer Pro itself, but the Boxer Pro is part of my problem for Dart Zone this year. Follow me on this, please. Soon after the Brute Pro was maybe done selling with people rushing for it, they announced the Volcanic Pro, which was basically a gecko-like pistol, Viper, fire rat-like, all-plastic pistol from Dart Zone. My problem is, this pistol blaster, very compact, very small. Yeah, it's a powerhouse, but that only depends on the spring you're putting in it. Basically, this blaster was $55 United States dollar, and I couldn't get my head around on how they could justify $55 for the Volcanic Pro while they were charging $60 for the Boxer Pro, which had at least 3 times more plastic for whatever kind of plastic. The shell, the magazine, because there's a huge belt and huge box coming with the Boxer Pro, the number of dart, the electronic in the Boxer Pro. I mean, there is electrical wire, there is motors, there is a lot of mechanical part. How they could justify that price and that disparities is kind of what pushed me away. Then there was the Amazon price point for that Volcanic Pro, which was oof, $91 for a Volcanic Pro. I'm sorry, but no, this is not the kind of money I want to put on an all plastic blaster. Honestly, would Dart Zone be a lot easier to get here and have more regular price point or more logical price point on their blaster, they would have been up in that list, but they would have to stay runner-up for now, no more than this. And then come to my top maker of the year, and it's Top Blaster. So we're gonna talk about X-Shot. X-Shot started the year very, very strongly with the Fury X. This Fury X was a little beast, a little amazing surprise. $20 Canadian for a top prime, magazine fed, Talon magazine fed, spring powered, 150 FPS blaster. This is hard to beat. Plus, coming with 40 dart. I mean, 40 dart. It's $4 of dart included with a $20 blaster. That's kind of neat. And this was like a no-brainer. For me, it stayed and it remained my blaster of the year. And then the year progresses and there is some leak for X-Shot. Some blaster we haven't seen, like the shell ejector or their smoking barrel, which was basically a more sturdy crusher with a smoke effect barrel at the tip. Very, very fun. But what blew my mind is what they contacted me with around May or April. It was their new latest and greatest blaster, and I have to say this is truly the best blaster X-Shot have ever put out on the market. This blaster is the X-Shot motorized piston pump AEB. This thing is pretty much the best blaster you can get for your money. The shell construction is way above everything what X-Shot have built, and so far going for the market like as it is now, I think it's one of the best shell you can just get out there on store shelf. Really, really hard to beat for quality of construction. Then they would come to my mind the reliability of the blaster, which is pretty much outstanding. There is a little screw on this jam door, which I have never removed since I have the blaster, and I have a few thousand rounds going through that blaster, that particular one. This blaster is insane. It accepts pretty much every barrel you want to put on it, shorter, longer. You have a rear spring access under the buffer tube, which is just awesome. This checks every box. I mean, in the evolution of blaster, we were to expect X-Shot to go for the performance flywheeler because they started to do some flywheeler and they were following the pro market. But they completely skipped that, went for the AEB, the electronic springer. This blaster is basically a semi-automatic long shot. As for comparison for behavior of the dart. This thing is powerful, 170, 180 FPS on the stock spring. I mean, this really checks every box. You have the versatility of a semi-automatic blaster, but you have the range and accuracy of a pump action springer. Think about that. This is outstanding. And those kind of blaster normally cost $300-400 in the hobby grade because they are really technical. There's a lot of mechanical part inside. X-Shot managed to pull this off for $100 Canadian. If you count there should be some corner cutting somewhere here and there, but not really. Honestly, everything is spot on with this blaster. I can't just stress that enough. Even the B-car, it's not super effective, but it's a good small B-car on it, and they put it in. They haven't even tried to sell it to you separately. They just slap it with the blaster. Plus, it includes the battery. For that $100 price tag, you have the battery. So yeah, if there is only one blaster that you need to buy for the whole of 2025, if you don't have an MPP, go and grab one. That is the one blaster that is pretty much apart from the rest of the market right now. So yes, the motorized piston pump AEB from X-Shot is my blaster of the year. There is no other choice. I mean, even if I'm going through other blaster, no other blaster check more box on my list, meaning that for 2025, X-Shot is basically my maker of the year for having what were my two single candidate for blaster of the year. Honestly, the perfect blaster for Christmas as a gift for someone who is into blaster and doesn't have one would be a Fury X. Inexpensive, precise, and reliable. This means you can have a banger for a very cheap price. Plus, these days at Costco, it's like $45 Canadian for two blaster, the interactive target, and $300 dart, meaning you could play a long time during Christmas with a cheap package. Well, that's about it for this video. Yes, X-Shot motorized piston pump AEB blaster of the year for 2025, making X-Shot my maker of the year for 2025. In the meantime, you can always follow me on Facebook, Instagram at @Nerf. Please leave a like and comment, subscribe for more content. Don't forget to hit that bell to notify for my latest video. This was Dave Fatag. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.